Hello, all you awesome healers. So, what I'm going to share with you today is all about resistance to creating wealth in your life. And resistance is one of the major wealth blocks that you could possibly have that will prevent the flow of wealth into your life. And wealth is whatever you imagine it to be. It could be having great relationships, it could be having vibrant health, it could be having enough money to survive really well. It doesn't matter how it looks, it just matters where you put the emphasis in your life and you decide. So stay tuned to hear more. This is Anastasia. I used to be a physics professor specializing in vibrational and quantum physics. After recovering from a serious illness using energy healing on myself, the calling to heal became so strong that I had to quit my 40-year research career. I replaced my 6-figure professor salary within 5 months using a simple but not easy 3-step system that I worked out to grow my healing practice. Now I help other healers grow their practices, whether they're just starting or already have a practice, with this same 3-step system. I'm all about helping you too. Listen in to learn more. Thank you so much for coming back. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about your resistance to wealth and how that formed. And mostly, so let me look at my notes here. Mostly you created your current reality with habits and survival skills. And these habits developed early in life. They could have developed in a previous lifetime and you carried that pattern forward and you still are using them in this lifetime. And as I've mentioned before, becoming consciously aware of where you have resistance and what your habits are make it a lot easier for you to dive into and those thought patterns and those energy patterns and allowing you to release them so you can create that abundance of wealth that you desire to have. And to remember, there is, compared to us, there is an infinite amount of energy available to us, and you are infinitely powerful and have full control of that energy. So let's talk about resistance. So go back to when you were very, very young and remember what your first awareness of lack was. For example, when I was very young, I remember the first time I became aware of lack was when I went to school and met other children who I was getting 5 cents a week allowance, and I was maybe in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and all of my friends and classmates were getting 25 cents a week allowance. And if I went to the store with them, they would be able to buy a lot more than I could. And so then I started thinking about why. And then my dad did something really smart at that point. He said for every penny that we put into a savings account, he would add the same amount. So if we put $1 in, he'd put $1 in. And that continued all the way through until college. And by the time I graduated college, I had maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Remember, this was 1974, and that was a lot of money. And I was able to buy a really nice car at that point, right straight out of college without taking out a loan. So that was in some way showing wealth, but in the other way, it was I had to give up a lot along the way. Right. So I did a lot of babysitting after I was about 12. I did a lot of babysitting and earned a lot of money that way. But I never really spent it because we were encouraged to save it. So I became aware of that kind of lack. And then, so think about where you might have become aware of lack. And it almost always has to do with your parents saying, in some way, shape, or form, we can't afford that. And your little person mind hears, may have heard, but usually hears, you're not worth it. So then in your mind, you associate the lack of spending money on yourself and the lack of wealth with your parents loving you. There's, these messages get crossed in your mind because you're not old enough to interpret them. It's always good to go back and reinterpret them, right? Live through them again. I did it with a lot of journaling. I did it with a lot of meditating. And then as I grew into my healing powers, as I started practicing and discovering them, right, I was able to then heal that part of me. So, and then I got really aware. I became more aware in high school, where we would go with my friends and they were getting $5 a week allowance, and I was still getting 25 cents. I finally said no more to my dad at that point. So your habits, these habits that are ingrained in you to deny yourself things, are all about survival. So you become resistant to the wealth because you feel that you need to do that to survive. And it is because we are resistant to change. This is the normal state of affairs. It's like you have an inertia in a certain direction, and in physics, in order to change direction, you have to apply a force in a different direction, and we become resistant to that change, right? So clearing out this resistance to abundance is really important for allowing you to invite wealth into your life. And then the other thing that I may have mentioned before is staying out of judgment, right? So one of the things that happens to a lot of us is that you'll look around and you'll see other people that are further along in something, right? You may have started a business a long time ago, and then you'll see somebody who's only been in business for a year or so, and they are further along with having a stable income. Because whenever you have, let's say you have a healing business like I do, there are always ups and downs. Your clients will come and go. Like I had a high-paying client that worked with me for a while, and then he left, and I haven't replaced him yet. So my income's a little down from where it was before. And then I feel, oh boy, I've been in business for such a long time. I should be farther along than I am now. So whenever you start shoulding all over yourself, you are also creating a resistance to abundance, because then your expectation goes down and down and down. And when your expectation goes down, you create that resistance to flow. And so staying out of judgment is really helpful, because you are exactly in the place that you need to be right now in order to be the person that you are meant to become, right? And that is why it's so important to embrace where you are right now, because where you are right now will guide your actions into the future. And being in judgment, or even being understanding, like, oh, I know why I am the way I am. What that means is that you are accepting who you are in the moment. And all of us, if you look at a little child that is just starting out in life, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to walk, they want to run, right? And you are still that child. I just want you to remember that you are still that child that wants to learn, wants to grow, wants to run, right? Wants to thrive. And all children want that, and you still have that within you. And when you start understanding, it's kind of like all those self-help groups. For example, if you are a child of an alcoholic, and then you identify yourself as a child of an alcoholic. I am that way because my parents were alcoholics. And so then you become stuck in that pattern rather than growing past it and saying, okay, I had an alcoholic parent. How can I change my future and my children's future so we don't have that energy pattern stuck within us, right? I had a rageaholic as a parent. I forgave her many times over, and I have been also thankful for her because I realized how many gifts she actually gave me. But she had this thing that made it very difficult for me growing up, right? So I never identified myself with having a difficult parent. And then I ended up marrying an alcoholic. So I never identified myself with being an Al-Anon, right? I went to Al-Anon meetings to outgrow this and to learn from other people there. And then I grew past it. And now I have let go that entire energy pattern. So this is really important, to stop understanding and identifying with a certain group, because you are an infinite being. And so here are some steps that you can take to help grow past that resistance to wealth, right? And I want you to know, have that first image of lack in your mind. That is just perception and not your reality. And you can start by journaling, right? Or meditating about this and having that clear image in your mind, right? Like my image of resistance is having to push a heavy ball uphill, or a heavy rock uphill, right? That's resistance, meaning that you have to work so hard for your money that you just don't feel like doing it. And so having that image while you're journaling, you can start the release process and just release it down and let it go. And the more you focus on releasing and looking to a different future than you imagine yourself having, different future with that resistance in mind, the faster and the easier it will become to release that abundance block. And it's all really about flow. So you can imagine this infinite amount of energy coming from above. You can imagine it being spirit, God, whatever belief system that you are in, Jesus, anything, and imagine that abundance flowing from the top, washing through you and dropping down the bottom and into the ground. And you can do this while you're journaling, while you're breathing deeply, while you're meditating, however you want to imagine it. And then, as always, imagine that the old programming that you just left behind is a thing of your past, and the new programming, which is coming in from your future, is going to operate today and every day from now on. I hope that was helpful. I will talk more about creating abundance and releasing all those abundance blocks that we may have formed sometime during this lifetime, or it's an energy pattern that we carried forward from our family members or from your past life that is still operating in your body, but becoming aware of the different forms of energy block which stops the flow of abundance, meaning abundance of health, abundance of wealth, and abundance of love in your life. And I hope this was helpful today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for taking valuable time out of your day to listen in. If you found this message helpful, please help spread the word by giving the broadcast a thumbs up or a 5-star rating. Share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to my channel with your notifications on. For further training on healing and growing your healing business using my 3-step system, go to www.highpaidhealers.com. And I'll see you in the next video.